Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pursuit Live. I'm your producer, Chris. Joining me, as always, is your creator and co-host, Mr. Dave Hawkins.
What's up, killers? Happy Friday evening. Thank you for joining us again.
And tonight, we got a special show for you. Joining us this week, we have Jess Caldwell, outdoor and survival educator and founder of Wildkind Outdoors. Jess,
hey, TGIF guys. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have a great show today. And I do just want to take a second and say, let's raise a glass. It is D-Day after all. So cheers to the boys on the beach.
Absolutely. I like that.
All right. What other announcements do we have, Dave? I don't think we really have anything to announce. We could just dive right into this.
I think so. I mean, I got to say, I love our intro song. We got to talk to your boy. Maybe he can cut us another one. He's got some good taste.
You know what's funny? The guys in the studio were just talking about that. When I told him who did it, he's like, wait a second. He did that? Like,
yeah. Yep. Anytime it comes on, it just puts me in a good mood. So that's good. Back-to-back weeks.
It was great. It was great to see your intro, and I see some familiar faces there. It was great to see Robbie, who's been on the show.
Yep, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really to report. It's definitely the off season as far as on seasons go. There's really no shows or anything that we're going to be involved in. It's all about our guests tonight, Jess. So if you guys are all ready, we'll rock and roll. Sound good?
Let's dive right into it.
All right. So, Miss Jess, how you doing this evening?
So good. So good to be with you guys. Good to be in community.
So you have without exaggeration, a plethora on your resume here. Without taking too long into the show, or we can make even a part two. We'll start from the beginning. I normally talk with the guests in the beginning. We talk about their background a little bit, as far back as you want to start. Obviously, for you specifically, what puts you in the woods? What puts you out on the water, on the hiking trail? And I know you're Northwest. I think you grew up in Washington, and then you're in Oregon now, or vice versa. I think you grew up in Oregon. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a very unique climate to grow up in. So it's why don't you talk about what that's like?
Well, I've always been an outdoorsy girl. I was definitely really free range growing up with my dad. He was a cowboy, and we had a property out in Sisters, Oregon. And I had a horse, and I was out, riding my horse, and he lived off grid for some time. And so my summers with him when I was little were in an off grid cabin. Okay. And really doing things wild out there. I'd go off on my horse and be back by dusk, that kind of thing. So, I was raised that way, but I also had a mom who lived in the city. She was an attorney in downtown Portland, Oregon. Wow. And so I had the two split families. I think it actually was really helpful in my life path that I had kind of both backgrounds. And when I was 14, I actually did 3 weeks on the Pacific Crest Trail with the Outward Bound. Some people have heard of Outward Bound, but it was a 3-week excursion backpacking that finishes with a 3-day solo. And I did that when I was 14. And that, I think, was the marker for me, of the greatest moment of my life. And all through adult life, I got married, and then I got married again. And then I had two kids, and I was always referring back to that time of my life. Like, God, I now live in a city, and I have a professional job, and I'm raising 2 kids. And I would reflect back and say, I so miss that time of my life when I felt the most free, when I had the most incredible adventures, and I'd wake up to sunrises in the middle of on a mountaintop. And I always referred to that. And I think life is really interesting. And it ended up giving me this opportunity that I'm currently, playing out in my reality, which started really 5 years ago. I was a marketing director at a performing arts center, and I lost my job because of the 2020, fiasco. And next thing I know, I'm a single mom, and I don't have a job. And I was starting to be concerned about just the complexities in our world in terms of food supply chain, feeling a sense of safety, having zero sense of resilience in terms of what happens if, fill in the blanks on all these things when we live in a modern society, modern culture where we're vulnerable. So those things really kind of hit hard. And very long story short, I could go into the minutia of it. I went fishing for the first time. and like for the first time 5 years.
Right.
And that experience opened up this world to me of, wait a minute, I can go out fishing and I can bring home a catch and I can make dinner with it, which is what my first introduction, I guess, to food sovereignty. Like, wow, I created it with my own hands and my time and effort. That led to many more fishing excursions, and I had great mentorship, obviously, that that helped me on that path, and which led to my first sitting in a blind, watching a hunt for antelope with a bow, and seeing that successful hunt and helping process the meat, and now eating backstrap that night for dinner.
Yep.
Again, open my eyes to something really deep and profound, very primal, something that lit me up. And I came home from that trip in Idaho and I bought my first bow, my compound bow. And so now I'm wanting to learn everything I can, because the more I went into wild places doing things that improved my own sense of self-reliance, this included ethnobotany training, learning about wild plants, medicinal plants, learning about that led to wilderness survival training, because the wilder and the deeper I went into the forest, I'm like, I better know how to get out of here.
Absolutely.
So that has been a 5-year journey. And I have to say, I've dedicated my life to it because it's been my healing journey. It's been how I came alive again as a human. And I just got lucky enough that the timing was such that my boys are 19 and 21. They're out of the house and they call this my sandbox years. They're like, Mom's out playing in the sandbox. And I get to have that because I've raised my 2 kids and now they're cheering me on.
That's good. Well, yeah, that's a tip of the hat to yourself. So you raised them right. So why not enjoy the sandbox years? I like that. That's a funny term. So even touching on that right there, you said you were 14 years old when that journey ended on a 3-day solo. That's when you're 14 years old, whether you're a man or a woman, you're 14 years old. Like, you don't really have the brain skills, or like, I can't think of the term. There's certain skills you grow as you get older in age to be able to cope with certain things. Do you remember feeling like anxiety, or honestly just straight out nervous? You didn't have that.
I felt
feeling?
amazing. And part of it is because we'd already done 3 weeks as a group backpacking. Okay. So we'd been out there for 3 weeks and living outside every night, waking, sleeping under the stars, setting up a tarp shelter, eating, our gorp and our food and whatever we had, and getting resupplies and dealing with adverse conditions, putting ourselves through challenges that you can't believe. Like, we'd have an ice axe and have to stop ourselves on the ice, sliding down an area of a mountainside that has, some ice built up. So it's like, we're doing things that most 14-year-olds aren't currently doing. No. They set those programs up for a 14-year-old to become capable and to have a coming of age experience that allows them to realize that like, hey, we can do at age 14, 15. Honestly, so much more than I think our current modern society gives our kids credit for. And the solo, after spending 3 weeks in a group setting, was actually just wonderful, because it was so nice to just be by myself and just have some me time. And I slept a lot. And, I got to sleep and rest and deeply rest and just hear the sounds of the birds, because it was quiet. No one was talking. So it was profound. And I've continued now with what I do now. I feel that that's a really important part of our aliveness, is having some solo opportunities. And whether it's in small groups or whether we create an experience where we can have a solo, we need, I think, coming of age for middle age, to be honest. Like, most of us go through these huge transitions, whether it's death, divorce, children leaving the nest, you name it. And we come upon this time of life that's very meaningful, but we don't have a way to really like honor it and go into it with curiosity of, what's next for me, and having those deep contemplations that wilderness and nature gives us.
Okay. So I'm going to jump around. This might be a little bit fast forwarded, but I think it applies to now. On your website for Wildkind Outdoors, I noticed that you use the term aliveness, and I believe you put it in all caps, and aliveness, and you sync that with like just getting off the grid, do you think this was like your first encounter of really feeling that truly aliveness and that disconnect, if you would?
So I use this term a lot. I really love it because and I'm sure most people can relate to this. There's a difference between living and living with aliveness. We can all
Okay.
go through the motions, and they can be very mechanical. They can also, when we're just kind of going through the monotony of life, maybe we're numbing ourselves out a bit because life can be hard, whether that's through social media,
Hmm.
alcohol, food addiction, you name it. I mean, we have these things that we can numb ourselves with in a modern world. And so to override that, I've been working with aliveness training. And because my background also is in holistic health and wellness, I have a degree from Portland State in the promotion of health and holistic wellness. And I'm also a health coach. That's something that I've always been invested in, 20-year yoga instructor. So a lot of this, the mindfulness training, breath work, feeling good in the body, it just started making sense, my life, that I've invested into these things around holistic health. And I found my way into partnership with nature, into being a student of nature, and realizing that there's something coming together here that gives us the training ground for aliveness training. And it does require will, and it does require an override to get out of numbness and to get out of convenience.
Absolutely. So do you feel like there's almost I don't, stigma might be a strong word, but if you hear somebody say like, yeah, I consider myself maybe like a prepper, or I'm practicing some bushcraft in 2025, chances are you might get somebody like, what are you worried about? We got the grocery store, we got the butcher, we got this. Yeah, that is some people's first reaction. What are you worried about food, or whatever? But to your point, like, what if it's not there? And there's, I think, a vast majority of people that if things do go south, let's say if shit hits the fan, a lot of people are going to be distraught and not even know where to begin. So
Yeah.
I really think your mindset to this is very practical. It's not something like far fetched.
No, because I mean, the other thing is the more the more skills you have. And we call it wilderness survival training.
Hmm.
But the first thing I do when people come out to a class is I'm like, welcome to Human Skills 101, because learning how to make fire,
Yeah.
harvest, drinking water, procure food, sleep overnight outdoors is
Yep.
basically what humans have been doing on planet Earth
Sure.
since the beginning of time. We just have completely isolated ourselves from that experience. So it's really about getting back to the basics, getting back to our primal human nature, which
Hmm.
is now we call it wilderness survival, but that's
Right. Right.
really,
Just
but
living.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel that the more you know, and the more you have those basic skills, that a little bit about harvesting food, and a little bit about the resilience building process that gets us out of our comfort zone,
Yep.
the more that you can shift fear. And the thing that I'm not is a fear-based instructor, because I have lived as a prepper for many years. I was a prepper when I was married to my husband. He built underground bunkers for a living, and
Okay.
I sold emergency food supplies on the side, and I also stored long-term food storage and sold long-term food storage as a side hustle. Now, all that's good stuff. I mean, there's really good reason to have a little bit
Hmm.
of a safety net, but it was very much rooted in fear-based expression. And a
Right.
lot of the stocking and storing can have a lot of that feel to it. And so during my divorce, when I kind of walked away from all of that and that lifestyle and was now a single mom, I realized that vulnerability I felt, that I didn't know how to do anything, and I didn't know what I would do if things were, if we were to have a major shift in our timelines, and if reality as we know it were to make a shift, I would feel helpless. And the more I learned, just the more that fear has started to just melt away. And I just feel just more in touch with living. And so there's kind of a two-part thing with prepping. Yeah, it's a great idea to be realizing that we are, and I think more people now than ever are actually very open to this conversation. I
Yes.
feel like 5-10 years ago, if I were to talk about prepping, people could be like, you're a prepper. But
Right.
now I feel like everybody can talk zombie apocalypse and like mean it and be like, let's go there.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. Are you on my zombie apocalypse team or what? Like,
I'll throw the tinfoil hat on right now. Let's go. We'll go sideways.
yeah, let's go. I mean, we can all join in this conversation.
Yep.
And I actually typically call it zombie apocalypse stuff because I like to lightheart it, like put a light heart on it, or, a sense of humor, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or whenever. And one person's zombie apocalypse, as a collective could be a real situation for one person in one state because something went wrong. So we all have this finite amount of time on Earth. So I am very much about, like, I actually teach, let's really be okay with our mortality, and let's be really okay with having conversations about whether you're prepped or you're not prepped. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing with your time? And do you love the life you're living? And start there as you're prepping, like begin there. Yep. And as you feel your life is coming together in a way that's joyous and you're good being alive, then start prepping some stuff, because then you've got resources in case there was a major shift. And then on top of the prepping, because I do think people should have at least a month worth of food storage and some water storage, and that's like a good beginning. Whatever you can do. But don't attach fear to it. Have fun with it. Do it in community. So I don't think we're meant to survive anything alone. Have fun with this. Bring in your neighbors. Bring in your community. Start doing things that are creating resilient neighborhoods. Because really, if the power grid were to go out tomorrow, your supplies are going to last so long. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen next is you're going to need to rely on people having skills and the will to live. And communities who've done some resilience on their own. Like, are there people who have honeybees? Are there people who have a garden? Are there people who have a ham radio operator's license? Are there people who can come together and, grow food, hunt for food? Do we have people who can preserve food? Are there people who have stored water or have access to rivers on their land that we can be working with water? I mean, that's like community resilience, which is a whole nother thing to me that I feel we should be talking about.
Yeah, that's the upper echelon, right? Start with us and then bring the community together.
Yeah, get yourself right.
Yeah.
Then prep.
Yep.
Then let's go community and holistic survival, because that's actually what it's about.
I think we have a little bit of improvement to do as a society, because if people don't have the Wi-Fi password at the bar or the restaurant, they get pissy. So we got some work to do, without a doubt. But hopefully, listening to this episode, they'll think differently about it.
Well, listen, I tell you what, if the power grid does go out, we're still going to bring you Pursuit Live every 2 weeks. We're just going to have to yell really, really loud.
We're going to fire up the Jenny and the solar generators, and we'll be all right. We'll get it out to you.
Get your ham radio operator license, and then you can just project out to a larger audience.
Well, there's a couple comments on Instagram right now. One of our good friends, Outdoors and More with the Squatch, good friend of ours. I think he was saying something. I was prepping before it was cool. And what'd you say, Chris? Just we were survivalists? Yeah. It's there is a practicality to it, without a doubt. A bug out bag. These are more, not militaristic terms, but they're very specific terms. So people they hear a term like that, they're like, oh, what are you talking about? What are you so worried about? One thing I am interested in is
we all watch Red Dawn. Okay, I get it. Like we're all the same age group here.
My wife can hear you right now. Her eyes are rolling. Every time I watch that, I'm like, all right, I need a little bit more. And then Tremors, the guy in Tremors with him and his wife. Yeah.
The Tremor preppers are like my ideal. They are my people. They're my couple. I love it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a little bouncing back and forth there. To switch it up a little bit. You were involved with a 7-day immersion, no bug out bag. I believe it was your knife, a ferro rod, and just the clothes on your back. Give us like the skinny on that. Where was that, and what was that like, honestly?
Yeah. Okay. As long as we can circle back around to the bug out bag thing, because I do want to talk about that.
I'm going to let, for some of the more specific things, I'm going to let Chris take that in the next segment. Cool.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Just let's not let me forget that I want to bug out bag talk with all.
I'm all about it. So this is a great episode.
Yeah. So I didn't just get to that 7-day solo overnight. I signed up for a 50-day advanced woodsman class with the Survival University up in Cripple Creek, Colorado. They have
right?
a campus up there, and I wanted to live in a primitive shelter for 43 days, 43 days, and take all their summer classes, everything from wilderness survival to advanced survival to flint napping, wilderness first responder training. They have a whole list that happens in this 50-day program. So I wanted to basically do everything and have the experience of living in a primitive shelter that I built and just have that level of immersion. So that was 3 years ago that I did that. And that the completion of that program, where you can become like a certified wilderness survival instructor, is a 7-day solo. And you actually, the only things you have that you can take with you are the clothes on your back and the clothes on your back. I'm trying to think.
I think it was a ferro rod you listed was the other thing.
So I earned that ferro rod. It's not
really?
like something you just get to go out with. And the way I earned it is to get to the solo. We had a 3-day hike to the middle of the backcountry.
Gotcha.
Right in the middle of the entire backcountry. Just kidding. Anyway, so to get there, you could earn a ferro rod if you transferred fire from camp to camp every night. And I completed that task where I would have a fire going on night 1, and I'd collect aspen conchs off the trees, put it in my cook pot along with some dried grass, and I'd put the coals in from the fire, and then I'd keep that alive and smoking all day long, and either adding more aspen conchs, which is a fire extender, or adding more grass, or adding more oxygen, or closing down the oxygen. It's the science of fire, really, but you have to travel with it all day.
Sure.
And then when you get to camp at night, you dump the bucket. Now fire's like ready to go. Your fire literally just lights up with a little, and then you've got fire, and then you do that 3 days in a row, and then you earn a ferro rod into your solo. So that was how I had my ferro rod. But you do get a knife. It's the clothes on your back and a knife. I knew I was going to do something. And then the ferro rod I added because I earned it. And then 7 days. Yeah. And you get dropped off, and it's really applying all the skills of what are the priorities of survival. Am I building a shelter right away? Am I working on water? Am I working on food? And because you learn what the priorities of survival are, for me, I was getting going with my shelter right away to get, just cover, because in Colorado in the summer, massive storms can come in just like that. And it's rain and hail and everything you can imagine. And sure enough, night 2, that did happen. So I was very thankful that I got my shelter done. I was, while it was dry, I was finding firewood, kindling, everything I needed to be working with, to have fire stored and dry firewood. And really I could have gone all 7 days without eating. Eating's not I love to eat, and that was, that I can get hangry and stuff, but other than that, it's really about the shelter, making sure you're out of the elements, and water was really a big deal. I could really feel day 1 not having drank much water. It was really brutal. I noticed immediately how cloudy my mind got and how low energy I became, and even just felt that zest for life kind of went away. It's a very strange feeling to be dehydrated, like deeply dehydrated.
Yeah.
So I got to experience that stuff. But I did find a beer can out there in the woods, a half one, and I scavenged that and used that to boil some water, and I was sipping water.
And they say boiling water, it's not 100%, but it's close enough for removing like pathogens. Let's say that anything that's left in there really won't cause too much harm.
Boiling water is good. I'm good with boiling water. Okay. If I'm in some city and there's all sorts of drugs and chlorine and everything in there, I would feel probably not as good about it. But in the nature, I'm good with boiling water and drinking it.
What about running water in general? Obviously, you never know what's upstream for you. Do you still boil running water?
Oh, like a river?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because upstream there's animals taking a shit, and
Yeah,
there are
or a
beaver
decayed
dams
animal
and
or
everything
something.
you can
Yeah.
imagine. So
Yep.
here we go, Giardia. Like, I no way. Like, let's just remove that from the equation.
No, it's true. It's true. It's a part of the conversation. Again, this is a real life talk. So if you can't handle it, I don't know. Sorry,
Mhm.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Have you had any bad? I know you're very well versed with your plants and all the species that are involved. Did you honestly make any mistakes while you were foraging and possibly eat a berry or eat something that actually, maybe you got sick or caused a little health issue?
No, unlike the survival reality shows where they're like out there for 20 days and they get desperate and they start eating stuff that they don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't do that. I'm very clear that
Hmm.
I would rather, like, again, this was a 7-day solo, so I can go without eating. But if I don't know the plant and I can't identify it
Sure.
clearly, I'm not going to eat it.
Okay.
So I'm pretty clear on my boundaries on that's just, but invest time in learning about wild plants.
Right.
So I
Right.
have a little more to work with. The more you know, the more you get out of the experience, the more you eat. So
Yep.
I am motivated to learn wild plants.
Okay. I got one last topic pretty much, and then I'm gonna swing it over to Chris. Chris, we got anything on Instagram we want to touch on quick?
No, you're good.
All right. So
Everybody seems to be a big fan of Red Dawn.
absolutely. Wolverines. All right.
Classic.
Great movie. I have 3 terms written down, and I just kind of want to get your input on the 3 of them, whether you think they all coincide, maybe what's different about them. Bushcraft, prepper, survivalist.
Yeah.
Break them down however you want.
Yeah.
Are they the same? Are they
No.
completely different? Do all 3 make one? What do you think?
All right, let's start with bushcraft, because bushcraft is, I wouldn't be necessarily applying bushcraft to a survival situation. Bushcraft is an art form. It's the journey of working, wildcrafting, working with natural materials to create, to be able to work with the natural elements. If I'm out in nature and I need a tripod to cook my food over, I can take my saw out and I can make 3 little, I can take 3 different kind of long poles, and I can use my paracord or natural materials. Maybe I've created a cordage from a natural plant fibers, and I've made a tripod. That's bushcraft. If I want to, for people who make their own bows or want to fish with hooks that they've handcrafted, that's bushcraft. It's really, for people who make the chairs out there, and they're out there doing these cool projects that get them not only skilled with their knife, but they learn that they can create all these wonderful things that are, that our ancestors were doing when they were working with stone tools. Like, all stone tools were giving us the opportunity to create and to make containers that we need, sharp things to hunt with or fish with, so that's kind of the art of bushcraft. That's very different, say, than being a prepper. I was a prepper 10 years ago, and I didn't know anything about bushcraft. I was someone who had a credit card, so I knew how to buy stuff. That's like, I knew how to buy food storage. I was gardening, and I did work in the garden, and that was part of my strategy, was learning how to grow food. But I also stored stuff, bought stuff, had seeds for the future gardens, had all of, was buying my anything that I would need, that if it all went down today, I have the tools I need, I have the resources I need to keep going. So that I consider that prepping, is thinking ahead, buying the things you need, and starting to learn how to be more self-reliant, maybe because you're gardening, maybe because you're start raising honeybees, chickens. You have, maybe you're learning about permaculture and regenerative farming. All those are really great topics that I could put under prepping. Now you have survivalist. And to me, when I think of that word, I do think it's independent of the others, although there might be some ways that they, work together. But to me, a survivalist is someone who has the wherewithal, the mindset to survive. I mean, even think about the people. I read all sorts of survival books and I watch survival movies because I love them. I'm fascinated by them. And there's a book called Deep Survival, and there's stories about who lives and who doesn't. Like, why is it there could be an airplane crash and some of the people maybe live through the initial crash. Some people make it back home. Some people don't. There is not only the will to survive, that thing that is like, that you got or you don't got, that says, I will, no matter what, survive this, and I will get home, and I'll never give up unless nature takes me or I get myself home. But I'm not giving up. And so there's the will of a survivalist. That's one thing. But then there's just a survivalist think about things like, hey, I'm going on a road trip. I'm going to pack a bug out bag or a go bag or emergency bag, and I'm going to know how to use my gear so that if anything happens, I am well prepared to not either shelter in place or pack out and get somewhere and be, save myself and my family or my friends, because I am prepared and will survive things that are maybe like unexpected, those unexpected things that we're not expecting. I prepare for, and I think about, and I have the tools to survive. Same thing when I got my wilderness first responder certificate, and I've gone through the course 3 times now, every 2 years. To me, that's a medical training that teaches folks what to do if there's a medical emergency for yourself or your family, if there's no access to EMS. And there's also this, you learn these things and you learn to work with creative resourcing, because what if you're in the woods and someone breaks their arm? What are we using to splint this that we have with us in our pack? What are we, how can we create a leader out of a garbage bag and some fallen trees, small little trees, to carry someone out? That to me is a survivalist. It's like not just, the things we can buy and store to prepare for something, but the skills and the mindset to survive when things go unexpected. Did that seem to tie in?
That was perfect. Absolutely. And I think it's a perfect segue now, because Chris, I know, has a lot of formal training on a lot of these topics. So I think it's a perfect segue. We'll go into more of the, maybe some more of the technical aspects of it, and I'll let him take over.
Thanks, Dave.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. So I am a bit of a gear nut, so this is going to get a little technical. And I'm going to start with the knife, first off. Obviously, it's fixed blade. That goes without saying. But what kind of knife are you carrying? Like, what's your go-to knife?
Well, I have a couple different knives, and like I worked with the Garberg because the Mora Garberg I like. It's a great bushcraft knife, but the Survival University started selling their own bushcraft knives, and so I've been working with theirs, and it's a carbon steel fixed blade. But I think, knives are such a thing, right? I actually just got a custom knife made that I can't, you'll see it when I post about it, because it'll be like.
That was the Survival University has their own
brand the Survival University, they have 3 different knives. They have like a smaller one called the Spirit. They have one like that's a little bit more like bushcraft heavy, and then they've got, all of them are for bushcraft, and then they have one that's like a machete. So I have all 3, and they're awesome to have different knives. But some of the things, since I often work with beginners, some of the things, I'm not just so into the gear, that there's this practical side to working with knives. And beginners don't usually just start off with a $400 knife. It's like, you got to get a knife that you feel comfortable, that you can bang on, that, if you're harvesting campfire wood, if you're harvesting wood and such, just by hitting over the top, you want to feel you can do that. You want to people make mistakes all the time with their knives. So I tell people not to spend over, $100, $120 on a bushcraft knife when you're first getting into it, because you're going to make some mistakes and make some dings, and like, go ahead and do that on that first knife, because that's going to come up. I teach classes all the time, and people are banging into rocks. I mean, they'll stick their knife like in a rock, and I'm like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
But they don't
It's
know.
like a carpenter cutting a screw with his chisel. It's like, I'll do that.
Yeah, it's really bad, really bad. But also we have to think about sharpening too, because a single bevel is a great starter knife because it's a little bit easier to sharpen. And once you get into double bevel and stuff, now you have to be a different type of, eye to be able to know how to sharpen the knife. And I don't even think about getting a nice knife unless you're going to think about investing on how to learn how to sharpen your knife. So I actually just ordered something. I should grab it that I'm really excited about from Gear Possum. Hold on. You must know these guys, but they have a really cool like strap, like small little travel strap that I'm going to start taking with me. I'm going to pull it up really quick because I love their stuff. And I just recently took a class with Kevin Estella, he's really like, he just came out with an awesome new book on survival. He's amazing, but he was the one that we geeked out on gear, and he showed me this thing, and I was like, okay, I need to have one. So,
while you're looking for that, I have a question.
Gear. Tough possum.
Well, I have a question about your fixed blade. Do you incorporate any fixed blades with like a portion of serrated down by the handle, or
I don't do serrated by the no, I don't.
No, it's just straight fixed blade. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does that but you, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I have a multi-tool. Like if I need a saw, I have a hand saw in my kit.
Okay.
If I need, I have a multi-tool that's great for smaller little projects. But I don't, the serrated can like I use my knife to spark my ferro rod to get sparks. So I'm using the back edge of that 90-degree edge. Just,
Gotcha.
That's how I'm lighting sparks and stuff.
All right, so I'm going to start digging into this a little bit. Now, what are your top 3 things that you carry with you no matter what you're doing? When you step into the forest, what are the 3 things that you have to carry with you every time?
Yeah, okay, so this one is probably not the answer that most people are expecting, but it's such a smart answer, is that I actually think communication is a very, very smart tool to have if you're going to even take a day hike or go backcountry hiking. I mean, so many people, like I have a Garmin Mini and I have a satellite phone because I go into the outdoors a lot and things happen. I would rather get a call off to somebody and be like, if I got a friend that's injured, I'd rather find a way to get them out immediately or communicate that there's a problem than be like, I'm such a survivalist. I brought my ferro rod and now we're out here for an indefinite amount of time till someone can figure out where we are. So to me, like there's that step of like communication. I always tell people where I'm going and when I expect to be back. And then making sure I have a battery charger for my phone so that I know I can recharge. The phone's a great tool. And then we've got these really low cost satellite communicators now that to me, it's like worth the investment if you're going to go hang outside. So I think that's something to add to the list because you solve a lot of problems right there with telling people that you're in trouble and need to get out. But on top of that, I would say since fire and water are probably my biggies, and I can make shelter out of if I had to in a bushcraft style or getting under a down log and throwing a bunch of leaves over myself. So I can make shelter if I had to. So I'd say the ability to make fire, because to make fire now you can boil water, you can you've got heat. There's a lot going on with fire. So I carry a fire kit. My fire kit always has a ferro rod, but it doesn't just have a ferro rod. It has a lighter too. I'm kind of cheating here because I'm saying fire kit instead of like ferro rod, but that's because there's no rules in survival. So you asked me a question, there's no rules in survival. Fire kit is item 1. And that's, so that kind of takes care of a lot of things. And like I said, if I'm in a survival situation, I'm going to use my lighter to start that fire.
Right.
I'm going to use a torch. I actually carry a little mini torch because that fire needs to go like that. But I carry a backup of a ferro rod because sometimes lighters don't work. Sometimes the mechanics don't work right. Sometimes sometimes at certain elevations or water or wind, it can be problematic. If you have an injury or your hands are cold, that mechanism can be really challenging. So getting familiar with a ferro rod, you'll always have hot sparks and a few cotton balls and Vaseline, you're good. And again, I'm not bushcrafting in survival. I'm using my gear. Very big difference. If I'm
Well,
out camping and I want to do some bushcraft, that's really fun, but that's very different than survival. So I'd say my fire kit. I would also say I have a Grail. I love Grail as I carry the titanium Grail water filter and that's actually something part of my go-to, like even I'm just traveling internationally or traveling anywhere, because that's part of my urban survival kit, because I could be anywhere where something goes wrong. And if I don't have a way to filter water, to me, that's a big problem. And the Grail is absolutely the best on the market in terms of just, I can go into any tap water, even, I could be anywhere in the world, even if the water is like non-drinkable, scoop it up and filter it and have something to drink. And so I feel that that's an important one.
Do you have any experience with the life straw? Have you tried that at all?
So it's just, yeah, but it's just
Okay.
a different capability, because with a life straw, it's great to pack in maybe an urban kit, or maybe just throw it in your pack, because why not? It's so small and not that expensive. But it also means I have to be right in front of water, that I have to like get down on the ground and like suck water in, and that, and I'm only getting what is available to me.
So now you have an actual container where you can put the potable water in. And it's filtered. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And then I also carry a little water bladder too. So let's say I got my Grail water filter, which the very expensive one has a titanium outer covering, which then you can put right in the fire and boil water. You can use it as a cook pot. So it's kind of it's got multi-use because of that titanium cover. It's more expensive, but I like the 2-in-1. I like to know I've got a cook pot, I've got the water filter. So yeah, I think, and then I carry a water bladder so that if I have to be on the move and I don't know when I'm going to hit water again for a while, I can filter a bunch. It's a 24-ounce, put it into the bladder, and then have the bladder that I'm carrying with me on the go.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So now I want to dig into the bug out bag.
I love the bug out bag. Like, I love this topic.
Well, there's a couple of terms, right? I believe I'm a note junkie. I'm always taking notes. If I'm correct, there's a go bag, a bug out bag. I don't know which one comes first, and then the never coming home bag. Would I be correct with that? There's different levels.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when I think of a bug out bag, it's something that you have packed ready to go. Red Dawn style.
Right.
You need to leave quickly and have what you need on you to bug out.
Yep.
Like, so that's like, those are your contents of your bug out bag. I think of something I think there's a lot of, it all kind of merges a little bit, but I do tell people to always have some kind of kit in their car, because I can't believe how vulnerable we are in our cars. We get on our car and even people drive 30 minutes to go to work, whatever we drive. Here we are, especially women who like don't have the right shoes on, don't have the right clothes on, kids notorious for not wearing jackets or anything else. And so everyone's in the car traveling away from, in the middle of a highway. I live in the Pacific Northwest. We could have the big one earthquake anytime in the Seattle area. And so I always think, what if that were to happen if I was on the main highway and roads are destroyed? What do I have in my car that I'm going to need to get to safety and at least sustain me for at least 3 days? And to me, it's like, pack boots in your car, like hiking boots, have a rain poncho in your car, because that'll keep you dry. It can be a shelter. It can harvest water. There's multi-purpose. Have I always keep thermal layers in a little kit, like a merino wool base layer, top layer, my merino wool socks, and then my fire kit, my some extra food, my ability to harvest water. So I keep those in the car. That feels like a really important thing to do. And then, you've got emergency kits, but emergency kit can be anything. It could be an emergency medical kit. It could be an emergency like the pet kit for your dog, or maybe you need a certain medications that you need to travel with. You will have an emergency medication kit. So those could be broken down into like, what is your emergency? And I think it's unique to different people's situations. On that, when people go backpacking, or day hiking. I feel like the day hike needs to get redefined for people to know that that is probably the most important time to have kind of your basic 5 of like what, the ability to have water, fire, shelter, a way to, boil things, some food prep. Like all of that needs to go into a day pack, because the people who get into the most trouble are the day hikers. Like they're the ones that go out for, maybe they go off trail to go to the bathroom, or they go off trail to forage for mushrooms or whatever, but they get backwards, they get injured, the weather changes on them, and they're only out there maybe in a tank top and shorts because the weather was nice when they left. But then some weather system comes in because they're higher elevation, they're not expecting it, and now they're in trouble. So having the things in a day pack is probably more important to talk about than a lot of the people who go backpacking, because they're a little more prepared, where the day hikers are not. So on that, I'm actually teaching a course on June 18th. It's a Zoom course, so anyone can join from anywhere. It's just going to be about an hour, hour and a half, depending on questions. And we are going to create the ultimate bug out bag, talk about survival, talk about resilience training, leadership mindset, intuition training when it comes to opening your senses to even be someone who picks up on, hey, something doesn't feel right. All of that will be talked about in my class. And if you go to Wildkind Outdoors on the courses page, there's a link to that class.
We do have a couple questions, so I do want to touch on these before we kind of continue on. The first question is, how many kits do you have prepared at all times?
How many kits?
Yeah, they're asking kits. So
kits. Okay. I always have my car kit, right? Like I have something in my vehicle, as I expressed, that's like just stays in the vehicle. Yep. So I don't have to think about taking it in and out. And then I've got my backpacking bag that really goes with me into outdoor excursions, that has everything I need that I've trained with, the gear that I find important. And then at home, when it comes to like a bug out bag or even just an emergency go bag, look at what happened in North Carolina. Look at what happened with the Maui fires, the LA fires. These are situations where people had to literally go out, like leave their home, even in this unexpected way. People in LA that day didn't wake up thinking, I need to think about leaving my house immediately. And yet those people had that experience. So having something in the home that even has into consideration medications, has important documents, maybe some cash, food, just things that you'd need in your home if you had to go quickly. I feel like those are the main things to think about.
Yeah, like that paperwork aspect, like everybody's got their office or that accordion folder that's got the most essential paperwork you need as a citizen just to do your daily life. And that's probably like the last thing on your mind. But if something like that, like a fire, a natural disaster, you're going to need that passport, whatever it may be, cash. I was glad you touched on that, because I noticed that was like a weak spot. If I was like, shit, I got all this gear ready, I'm good to go. Well, I have no proof of who I am, who my wife is. And pets, if you have a dog or a cat, like you said, whatever medication they need, like that's another factor to it.
Yeah. And this is good preparedness, and it's good as a survivalist. Like this is survival mindset, right? And it's someone who's prepared. So these are like how they're kind of mixing together. And, I flew into Maui the night before the big Maui fire in Lahaina. Yeah. And I was staying with a sister of mine, and she was up country when we got that alarm call to get prepared to evacuate, because there was another fire up country as well. And I'd just gotten to bed. We were just kind of settling in for the night when the alarm, on our phones went off, and it was really like go time, get prepared to evacuate. And she has that prepper mindset. So I was so proud of her. She like opened up she had a what do you call it? A safe. And she opens up her safe, and it was all there. She had a little bag in her safe. That's all the things. So it was like, grab that, backpacks are ready. And it was a very seamless deal,
Yeah.
and yet still stressful, because
Yeah.
even with some preparedness, when it's actually in that moment, you've got your sympathetic nervous system is taken over, so you're not thinking quite clearly, and you're just everything, you could freeze. Some people do that. And so it's really good to practice mindfulness training, to practice how we work with the software of handling big situations that come up. And that's a big part of what I do. This is why I teach aliveness training, and how my life has somehow made sense. Why does a yoga, breath instructor, mindfulness instructor all of a sudden find herself a wilderness survival instructor? And yet there is this training, this parallel of what happens when we are able to take a full breath before just making bad decisions. It's like, and how we can train ourselves to just do it in one breath. Have you ever heard? So this, at some point we should talk about this, but I just had the opportunity to take a whole day of archery shooting training with Tom Klum Sr. here in Denver. And he worked with me when I have a trad bow now, so I'm shooting with a longbow. But archery is one of the greatest ways to have a training tool of discipline of the mind, and overriding our, kind of getting into conscious brain when our lower brain wants to take over and do these, all of this override on our system that causes us to be reactionary instead of focused in the zone Yoda stuff. And I'm telling you, it was a day of Yoda training for me. And I am so motivated by it that I know that I'm going to start, I'm actually going to start my training to be certified as an archery instructor, because I feel there's great training there. I think there's some questions, so
no, it's all good. We're on top of it. Don't you worry.
Okay.
Yep.
So we did have a couple more questions that I do want to kind of get through before we get to these. Somebody asked, how much water per day is needed?
I mean, I know that they say it's, based off like body weight, and I don't know those formulas. I have no idea. I just know what I need to drink, because it just depends too. Am I sitting in a warm environment where I'm not cold and I'm not doing much? I'm going to need less than if I'm collecting firewood, building a shelter. It's cold outside, so my body's shivering and I'm burning a lot of calories. So I really don't know the answer of like how to tell someone how much water they should drink. I know there's people who drink a gallon a day, but I actually don't drink. I don't drink that much water. I work with water in a way that I listen deeply to when I need water, and I'm making sure that I don't chug water. I drink water throughout the day. And with survival, you don't want to actually reserve and hold off on your water. You want to drink the water you have, and not because the dehydration cycle is really gnarly. And so so first of all, be a prepper, be a survivalist, have a way to filter water. Like, let's just start with that. And then you don't have to worry about it. Keep yourself hydrated. Hydrate to operate.
There you go.
All right. And the last question was, if you could only pick one weapon to bring with you for survival, what are you taking with you?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. It's kind of like the question between like a lighter and a ferro rod, right? So it's like, okay, well, what's the scenario here? Because am I concerned about people, or am I concerned about big game animals, or am I concerned about, needing food? So let me think about that. I actually have a 357 Magnum revolver, and that to me is an old timer gave it to me, and I love it because I really struggled with some of the 9mm. I just didn't have the strength to. Maybe I need to build that up, or I need a better, experience. But he was like, take this out with you into the woods, and it's like, it's like really simple, like things go in and then you push it up
from 9mm to 357. Sure, why not? No big deal.
No big deal.
Dirty Harry over here. Okay.
Oh yeah, and that, and I have I taken that into especially when I'm by myself. Yeah, I feel really good taking that out with me, because that actually has the power to, for like a big animal, or or a big person. But not that I'm anticipating that, because I'm really not. It's just that if the question is, this is what I would take. But if I could only take one, I mean, gosh, I think everything should have multi-purpose. If you can only bring one thing, and then my knife comes in to because my knife can do a lot of things. It can make shelter for me. It can help me make fire. It can help me procure food. It could stab something. I mean, I don't know, but I would say knife is like kind of like my ferro rod, and gun is like my lighter. I don't know if that answers the question. It's my version of an answer. There's no rules here, right? So I don't answer anything exactly as you're asking me to.
All right. So I do want to, before we kind of get too long in the show here, but I do want to touch on Wildkind here. Now, I know you have something big coming up, some big news that just kind of happened. So if you could kind of let's dive into that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Well, one thing that happened recently is that Wildkind Outdoors received its first military contract to work with our special forces in advanced wilderness survival training. And what I can tell you is that as a company that started 5 years ago, to receive that contract and receive that trust, that I'm going to put together a curated training that will basically, these guys need to prepare to go and to be and to do exactly this, like survive in an extreme situation. Now they have SEER training, they have they're incredible elite minds who can do incredible things, but the honor of receiving this contract to say that I'm going to curate the right team to come in and teach advanced wilderness survival, advanced bushcraft for when you need it. We're going to get into preserving meat, trapping. We're even going to get into slingshots and working with slingshots in the field. And I'm going to be doing that training. So there is, for Wildkind Outdoors, it was just a huge honor to be able to get that contract. And I'm just going to say it, as a woman-owned company too.
Sure.
It really was an honor to be seen in that way and to be taken seriously, that these guys' life is on the line. And I take that right to heart. And I think kind of where we started in this podcast, where I had a dad that lived off grid, who raised me, running barefoot in the middle of nowhere, to a mom who lived as an attorney in the city of downtown Portland. I feel like that background has given me the opportunity to and my marketing background and just my professional side has given me the skills to be able to put a contract together, to be able to manage the putting it all together, being able to say, I can put an event together. There's going to be the right catering's going to be there. The right people are going to show up. I got that multi-line highway as a woman brain. So I'm putting together an event that's going to be top level. It's going to be top notch. And I'm actually partnering with Joel Vanderloon. He's going to be the instructor who's coming on to work with me. Joel was on season 6 alone, and he's won a few of the alone challenges. He is from South Africa. He's an absolute bushman hunter. He's an incredible man and very talented, has dedicated his life to these skills. So I brought him on to come and teach and work with me. And so, I happen to have an incredible network. That's how Wildkind Outdoors has become what it is because I don't do this alone. We have friends, we have network, we lift each other up, we learn from one another. I've had incredible mentors along the way. And now, because I have this channel of a business, I'm able to pull and draw from all these incredible humans that I know and say, let's put together the best of the best trainings. And so I actually had an opportunity. I was a finalist for a TV reality show, survival show, which I can't say the name right now, but it was a big one on a big network. And we were going to be filming in June and July. And this military training for special forces, is in August. And they called me and said, hey, we've changed the dates. We're now going to go all the way through August. And I turned it down. I was like,
yeah,
this opportunity to work with those who are serving our country. before a TV show, hands down, every time.
Good
So
for you.
yeah,
Good for you. That's pretty badass. I mean, I not to sound coy, it's just badass. Good for you.
thank
It
you.
really is. It's impressive.
Yeah,
And like you said, the severity. Honestly, let's face it. You know, the severity behind it is no joke. And you know, I could tell you're going to take that to heart, and you're going to do damn well at it. I'm sure.
for sure. Thank you.
So we are at the hour mark already, which is fine. Let's take some time, though, Jess. Let's let everybody know where they can find more of everything you do, Wildkind Outdoors, social media,
Yeah.
whatever you want to plug.
Thank you. So the website is wildkindoutdoors.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, and then you'll know about things going on. If you have a corporate event or a private group that you want to have an experience in a nature immersion or training, reach out to me. My email's on there, jess@wildkindoutdoors.com. Social media on Instagram, I'm Wildkind Jess. And there's also Wildkind Outdoors has its own professional site on Instagram. And I'm on TikTok as Wildkind Jess. And YouTube channel's coming. I have
Good.
so much freaking amazing content, and I don't know
Good.
why I haven't started a YouTube channel yet, but I have. There's one video there. Subscribe, because hey, we'll get there.
Absolutely.
I need a team.
Well, like you said before the show, we all support each other. That's what it's all
That's
about.
right. Yeah. So I'm about to launch a 1-year training for women in resilience training and leadership training and rewilding. And I'm going to launch that on solstice. And that will be a year-long gathering of some
Nice.
incredible minds of women, because we need the women to rise into this place as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Producer Chris, what do you got, buddy?
That's it. I think there's a lot more to this story. So I don't even know where to continue with this, but you know, after you get done with the boys in the group, we'd love to have you back on, and we'd love to hear all about it. So open invite later this year.
Yes.
We want to hear the story.
That sounds wonderful. You guys are so fun, and thank you for having me on your show and introducing me to your network and those who support you. And glad that we are now part of this continued gathering of people and community who love what we do and love to share it with the world.
Absolutely. Well, you're not alone. Like I said, we had a bunch of loyal followers tuned in on Instagram. And that's what it's all about. We enjoy coming together every week or every other week and just having a good time. And we're all here because we share the same hobbies, the same passions, the same mindsets with a lot, you know, especially with topics like this. So we're all like-minded people here. So we're all friends. So you're welcome back anytime. Thank you again for sharing tonight with us, sharing your story. And hopefully we get you on again in the near future for whatever you want to talk about.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. So hang tight if you don't mind, Jess. After the show, I think Chris will probably wrap us up. We'll do a little talk after the show, and then we're good to go.
Sounds good. Good night,
all
everybody.
Right.
TJ.
Everybody that tuned in, thank you very much. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.